Можна ферму у колгоспі розвалити, на горілочку вишифер поміняти і всім разом в теплій хаті загуляти. Нехай наші вороженьки та й сміються, що давно городи в селах не оруться, що квітують і не сади, а бур'яни, їм не знати, що то сіно для Мар'яни. Під горою яворина і трава духмяна, хай живе кобила Зіна і коза Мар'яна.
Очеретом наш ставочок заростає, кум кобилу свою Зіну запрягає, іди в ліс валити дуба сухостоя, щоб зимою нам зігрітися з кумою.
І нехай Росія газ відключає, нас ніколи таке лихо не злякає, бо Мар'яна є у нас і є Зіна, не поставлять Україну на коліна. Під горою яворина і трава духмяна, хай живе кобила Зіна і коза Мар'яна. І нехай Росія газ відключає, нас ніколи таке лихо не злякає, бо Мар'яна є у нас і Зіна, не поставлять Україну на коліна. Під горою яворина і трава духмяна,
хай живе кобила Зіна і коза Мар'яна.
And a song by Ukrainian artists E. Hanzera and M. Yanchenko. And the song was called "Не поставлять Україну на коліна," which translates as "Don't put Ukraine on her knees." And certainly that has been tried by many occupying forces over the centuries and certainly in the bloody 20th century. And we'll be hearing more on that theme in the hour ahead. Добрий вечір, дорогі радіослухачі, та вітаю вас всіх на радіопередачу «Наш Холос» радіо українського коріння, котра подається вам на багатомовній радіостанції AM 1320 CHMB у місті Ванкувері і по мережі PCJ Радіо Міжнародному. При мікрофоні Павліна Макварі, дякую, що рішили перебути зі мною наступну годину. Ми маємо дуже цікаві новини на сьогоднішній програмі. Hello there and welcome to Nash Holos Ukrainian Roots Radio here on AM 1320 CHMB Vancouver and in international syndication on PCJ Radio International. I'm your host, Paula Demchik-Macquarie, Pokrinske Pavlina. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's program is dedicated largely to the Holodomor. Today is officially Holodomor Memorial Day in BC, as in other provinces and federally. And just a few weeks ago, the government of British Columbia passed a bill officially proclaiming the fourth Saturday of November as Holodomor Memorial Day. And we did do a program on that shortly after the event happened, and that was October the 28th and 29th when it went through the final readings. And the following weekend, we did a show. I will bring you a little bit more from that, including a speech by the president of the BC Provincial Council of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, who gave a very stirring speech at that event. As well, we'll have a book review on communism and hunger and other items of interest, as well as our proverb of the week, and of course, great Ukrainian music. And coming up next is a song that is an original composition about the Holodomor. It was written by Stepan Pasichnik, also known as Ludwig. He is a Ukrainian Brit, and he wrote this song a few years ago. It is in English for the Ukrainian impaired, and for those who are not familiar with Holodomor, it does tell a story in just 3 minutes. Here he is, Ludwig, also known as Stepan Pasichnik, with Land of Plenty, 1933.
Land of plenty, please tell me if it's true. Land of plenty, what did they do to you? Land of plenty, they stripped your wheat fields bare. Land of plenty, as if you were not there. Land of plenty, they stripped your wheat fields bare. Land of plenty, as if you were not there. Land of plenty, your people lived off you. But it started in 1932. Land of plenty, your people you could feed. But that year you were robbed for foreign greed. Land of plenty, your people you could feed. But that year you were robbed for foreign greed. Land of plenty, your people could not eat. Satan's soldiers collected all your wheat in the name of an ideology that was written to give equality. In the name of an ideology that was written to give equality. Land of plenty refused the right to give, and Ukraine was refused the right to live. Land of plenty, as if you were not there. Land of plenty, the harvests of despair. Land of plenty, as if you were not there. Land of plenty, the harvests of despair. Land of plenty, 2 years with empty hands, and the world still refused to understand that your nation just wanted to be free. Land of plenty of 1933. Yes, your nation just wanted to be free. Land of plenty of 1933.
Веселі, брати, часи настали, нове майбутнє дарує день. Чому ж на небі так мало сонця стало? Чому я далі пишу сумних пісень? Чому ж на небі так мало сонця стало? Чому я далі пишу сумних пісень? Веселі, брати, часи настали, ми наближаємось до мети. Чому ж тоді я шукаю іншу стежку? Чому я далі з ними не хочу йти? Чому ж тоді я шукаю іншу стежку? Чому я далі з ними не хочу йти? Часи настали, на грудях світить нам слави знак, нам очі ніжно закрили губи
медом змастили, душу кинули просто так. Нам очі ніжно закрили, губи медом змастили, душу кинули просто так. Душа прокинулась та й питає сама у себе, чому одна. Немає в кого спитати, золото замість тата, замість мами глуха стіна. Немає в кого питати, золото замість тата, замість мами глуха стіна. Навколо стало, кудись поділися голоси. Часи веселі настали, нас лишилось так мало, ну їх, брати, такі часи. Часи веселі настали, нас лишилось так мало, ну їх, брати, такі часи. А нам з тобою своє робити, і далі йти, і зуби сильно стиснувши, маму ніжно любити. Хто ж тоді, як не ми, брати? І зуби сильно стиснувши, маму ніжно любити. Хто ж тоді, як не ми, брати? Хто ж тоді, як не ми, брати? Хто ж тоді, як не ми, брати?
And a popular Ukrainian group called Okean Elze with a song that was written about a decade ago now. And it was called Veseli Chuse, which means happy times or fun times are here. And it is actually anything but. And it kind of gives an overview of what life was like under the Soviet Union and even post-Soviet Union, which you could probably pick up on the melody itself, which is not exactly upbeat. The video is on YouTube, and if you'd like to get the translation of the lyrics, there is a version there with English subtitles if you don't understand them in Ukrainian. So do check that out. I've posted a link on our Twitter feed, so if you're not following us yet, then do check it out and you'll find a link there. Again, that was Okean Elze with Veseli Chuse. As I mentioned at the beginning of the program, on Tuesday, October 29th, the government of the province of British Columbia passed Bill M-225, the Ukrainian Famine and Genocide Holodomor Memorial Day Act. The act officially establishes the fourth Saturday of November as Holodomor Memorial Day, joining the federal government and the governments of Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec in this acknowledgement. The act was introduced as a private member's bill by Dr. Andrew Weaver, head of the Green Party of British Columbia and MLA for Oak Bay, Gordon Head, and Victoria. The bill was passed unanimously. A reception was held on Tuesday at the BC Legislature. Dr. Weaver spoke, as did Andriy Shevchenko, the ambassador of Ukraine to Canada, as well as Natalia Yatskevich, president of the BC Provincial Council of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress. At the reception, Oksana and I did manage to catch up with some of them and get statements. You can hear more official statements on our November 2nd Vancouver edition and November 6th Nanaimo edition. But here are a couple of clips that we managed to get from them at the reception.
I'm Andrew Weaver, the leader of the BC Green Party and the MLA for Oak Bay, Gordon Head. Last spring, I gave notice that I was going to introduce Holodomor Memorial Day Act in the fall. And once I put it on the order papers, I spent a bit of time trying to build all-party consensus. And I also worked with to ensure that the Ukrainian consulate in Vancouver, the embassy in Ottawa, were aware of our intentions. And it was only after speaking with members of other parties that it was clear that it was going to pass unanimously in the House. And then here we are today. day, going through first, second, and today third reading, and it's now a matter of law. We'll get royal assent on Thursday of this week, and that'll be a great day of celebration for me. It's a sad, it's celebration for me, but it's actually, we're memorializing the tragedy of not only my family, but so many families of Ukrainians, not only in British Columbia, but across Canada. My family's story, the Kravchenko story that I read into the record in second reading yesterday, that Kravchenko story is my personal story, but it's so similar to the stories of many others. It's a story of survival. It's a story of the country of Ukraine being always under battle with the Soviets coming in, and then the Russians coming in, and then the Soviets coming in, the Nazis coming in, and then the scorched earth policies as the Nazis leave, and then the Soviets coming back in. It's a story of survival, a story of hope, in that those who survived have been able to be memorialized today through the passage of this bill. I contacted my uncle, Dyako Bogdan Kravchenko, who's now in Kyrgyzstan at the University of Central Asia, to help me put together the story. My deed and my baba, they never wanted to talk to me about it as a young child growing up. They wanted to talk about the here and now. It was traumatic for them. I pieced together over many, many years stories that my mother Ludmila would tell me, stories that my uncle Oleg would tell me, and stories that my uncle Bogdan would put together. But my mother and my uncle's memories are fading quickly, and so it was only in the last 3 weeks that I was working very closely with my Jacobo Bogdan in Kyrgyzstan to piece together the family story, to read it into record yesterday.
It is a very powerful gesture, and it's an extraordinary result of a very long journey, very long work done by the Ukrainian community here in British Columbia, and by all those who are passionate about justice in the world. And I think it's a very important message, and it tells that we should not forget the crimes of the past. We should pay tribute to those who suffered, to those who died, and we should make sure that this will never happen again. I'm very happy to see this very powerful signal from British Columbia. It's no surprise, because this province stands out for its extraordinary record in human rights, and we'll make sure that this news is spread all over Canada and all over the world. It's a very important big day for the whole 75 million strong Ukrainian family around the globe.
Andriy Shevchenko, the ambassador of Ukraine to Canada, and before him, Andrew Weaver. Coming up next is Oksana Bilozir, popular Ukrainian singer, with a song specifically about Holodomor, and it is calling on people around the world to light a candle in memory of the victims of Holodomor. And if you didn't light a candle at 4 p.m., it's not too late to do that now, and place it in the window in memory of those who perished. Here's Oksana Bilozir with Svichka.
На вікні свіча миготіла кривді за плеча, тріпотіла до правди летіла. Там, де рідний край, де Україну голоду нагай, шмагав до згину не день, не годину. Вогником свіча повівала мати дитинча, сповивала пісні, гомоніла про гірку біду, недолю голу, про чужу орду, криваво чолу подай скам'яніла. На вікні свіча догасала мати дитинча, колисала не в колисці, ні, не в колисці, але у труні. Мертві по гробах, їх мільйони по німих церквах, стогнуть дзвони, хто ж то Україні, Боже, нині допоможе. скарги і плачі, досі чути усе, люди тямлять, досі жаль до сліз тих, що не впору їх потяг у кіс, голодомору, тож вічна їм пам'ять. На вікні свіча, миготіла.
Welcome to Knyzhka Corner, book reviews by Myra Junik, Ukrainian stories in English.
In this edition of Knyzhka Corner, we will be discussing communism and hunger, the Ukrainian, Chinese, Kazakh, and Soviet famines in comparative perspective, edited by Andrea Graziosi and Frank Sissin. Communism and Hunger is a collection of scholarly articles examining the similarities and differences of the pan-Soviet famine of 1931-33, the Ukrainian Holodomor, the Kazakh Great Hunger, and the famine in China in 1958-62. The articles were written by scholars who presented their papers at a 2014 conference organized by the Holodomor Research and Education Consortium. Whatever the economic motivations, the famines were also political events, requiring political analysis of their causes and courses. The first three articles in this collection examine the specific causes, events, and results of the famines. Nicholas Wirth examines the man-made famines in the USSR from 1928 to 33, which killed between 6.5 to 7 million people, 4.2 million in Ukraine and the Kuban, 1.5 million in Kazakhstan, and more than 1 million throughout the rest of the Soviet Union. Stalin considered peasant resistance to his economic policies as a war on the Soviet Union. Wirth describes the forced collectivization in Ukraine in brutal terms. The total confiscation of land and livestock from village communities, the harsh restriction of ownership of domestic animals, and the peasants' loss of control over the distribution of the harvests resulted in wholesale starvation. At the height of the Holodomor, between January and July 1933, between 15,000 and 20,000 people died every day in silence and total abandonment. Sarah Cameron's article on the Kazakh famine of 1930 to 33 examines Stalin's efforts to collectivize the nomadic population, which resulted in wholesale starvation. As archival information has become more available, the research on this horrific event has increased. The third article by Zhu Jun examines the Great Famine of 1958 to 62 in China, which claimed millions of lives as a result of Mao Zedong's effort to make China an industrial communist utopia. The subsequent three articles are comparative studies of the use of hunger as a weapon in communist regimes in the 20th century. The similarities are striking. Political reasons for man-made famines, official denials to the world about the famines while they were occurring, and striking consequences for those impacted by the famines. All the scholars are united in calling for more research on these important historical events. The articles in this book relied on recent increased access to archives and the efforts of the international scholarly community to release information about the use of hunger as a political and economic tool by communist governments in the 20th century. These governments believed that by creating politically motivated famines, they could manipulate populations under their control. The statistics of the various famines have been hotly contested for their accuracy, mostly because of political propaganda. The most shocking aspect of this collection of articles is that the world community allowed these famines to occur without intervention. Whole populations starved to death while the world community ignored their plight. The individual articles in this scholarly book about how hunger was used as an economic and political tool by communist governments are very enlightening. There are extensive and detailed footnotes which will definitely be useful to scholars pursuing further research on these topics. While the Ukrainian Holodomor was not the only focus of this text, readers will learn a great deal about the horrific events in their historical context. Communism and hunger is definitely meant for scholars of world history. However, all readers interested in the history of the Ukrainian Holodomor will definitely enjoy this book. The book was edited by Andrea Graziosi, president of the Italian National Agency for the Evaluation of Universities and Research, and a professor of history at the Università di Napoli Federico II, and Frank E. Sissin, director of the Peter Yatsik Center for Ukrainian Historical Research, Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies, and a professor at the Department of History and Classics at the University of Alberta. Communism and Hunger is available at the Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies Press.
Thanks, Myra. Join us again soon for another edition of Kanishka Corner, book reviews by Myra Junik, here on Nash Holos Ukrainian Roots Radio.
Thanks to the foresight and generosity of its donors, the Shevchenko Foundation has been investing in the future of the Ukrainian-Canadian community for over 50 years. Since 1963, the Shevchenko Foundation has been funding initiatives that strengthen our Ukrainian-Canadian identity and enhance our Ukrainian-Canadian cultural heritage. These include fine and performing arts and arts groups, museums, cultural centers, education, as well as authors, journalists, and the Ukrainian-Canadian media, including this program. The Foundation strives to become the premier not-for-profit foundation in Canada, which acknowledges the Ukrainian-Canadian community as a fundamental component of Canadian society. Nash Holos listeners are encouraged to support this vision through continued donations into the future. To apply for grants, make a donation, or for more information, visit ShevchenkoFoundation.com.
Every day, more Ukrainian soldiers are killed or wounded by Russian invaders. You can help wounded heroes by joining the Adopt a Soldier program of registered charity Ukraine War Amps. A small monthly donation goes very far for medical services and living expenses and creates a special bond between you and a wounded hero. 100% of your contribution goes to the soldier. Please, adopt a soldier today. Visit ukrainewaramps.ca or find us on Facebook.
This is CHMB, AM 1320, Vancouver.
Коли ви вмирали, вам дзвони не грали, ніхто не заплакав за вами, лиш чистому полі ревіли гармати і зорі вмивали сльозами.
хмарами круки стадами літали, і бурею битва гриміла. На ваших могилах хрести почорніли, берези схилились додолу. Спіть, хлопці, соколи, сини України, що впали за волю, за долю. Спіть, хлопці, соколи, сини України, що впали за волю, за долю.
And that was Picardisca Tertia from Ukraine with a song that was written specifically to commemorate Holodomor victims. And it was released about 3 years ago. The song is called Kole Vev Merale, When You Died. Up next, Natalia Yatskevich, president of the BC Provincial Council of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, and her remarks on Holodomor, as well as the recent passage by the government of British Columbia of the Holodomor Memorial Day Act.
Honorable members of the Legislative Assembly, dear Ukrainian diplomatic team, Ukrainian Canadian community of British Columbia, dear guests. Today is a day of a special importance to our province. Today, I address you on behalf of 230,000 of Ukrainian Canadians who call our beautiful British Columbia their home. Many of us are the descendants of Holodomor survivors. Our roots are in a nation that once lost up to 7 million lives in just over 1 year as a result of the Holodomor genocide. Holodomor, one of the most heinous crimes in the human history, was the result of a deliberate political strategy masterminded by Joseph Stalin and his communist regime. In 1932-33, Soviet regime sentenced the Ukrainian nation to death by starvation. In one of the history's greatest crimes, the Soviet regime committed genocide against an Asian nation of grain growers who sought to live free on their own land. In 1932-33, the borders of Ukraine, that was for centuries the breadbasket of Europe, were sealed, all grains and food was confiscated, and its people starved. Those who resisted were executed or exiled to hard labor in the Soviet Gulag. Food was turned into a weapon to break the resistance of the Ukrainian people to Soviet rule. Millions of children, women, and men were condemned to death because of the Ukrainian people's aspirations for independence, their desire to speak their language and maintain their own culture and traditions. 1 out of 4 Ukrainians perished in the genocide of 1932-33. At the height of the genocide, Ukrainian villagers were dying at the rate of 25,000 per day, or 1,000 per hour, or 17 per minute. 1/3 of the victims were children. Starving children, fleeing to cities in desperate search for food, were caught by NKVDists and thrown in concentration camps for children, called death barracks. People whispered there were tens of thousands of farm children picked up in Kharkiv and gathered there. The death rate in those barracks was 40%. And while Ukrainian children and their families were perishing by millions, Soviet regime kept confiscating the crops from starving villagers and selling it abroad. In 1932, 1.7 million tons of grains was exported from Soviet Ukraine, and another 1.7 tons in 1933. This volume of grain could save all starving Ukrainians. The value of Soviet grain exports in 1932-33 was just $65 million. Moscow sold over 7 million human lives for the price around $6 per Ukrainian man, woman, and child who starved to death. Losses during the Holodomor surpassed those of the Ukrainian nation during the Second World War. Even after the Holodomor, Ukrainians continued to suffer the consequences of this merciless act. For many decades, the survivors of Holodomor and their children were denied even the right to commemorate their victims. The Soviet regime that conducted this genocide denied its existence and terrorized its own population into silence for generations. Thus, this huge crime nearly disappeared from world's awareness. After the demise of the Soviet Union in 1991, archives in Russia and Ukraine were made accessible. And with the declassification of documents in Ukraine and eyewitnesses' accounts, the world has finally learned of a horrific crime against humanity. In 2006, Ukraine's Verkhovna Rada voted to recognize the Ukrainian famine of 1932-33 as an act of genocide. Following Ukraine's lead, the international community joined in recognizing the Holodomor. To date, over 14 nations have condemned the Holodomor, and 14 countries have formally recognized the Holodomor as an act of genocide, with Canada leading this movement. The government of Canada recognized the Holodomor in May 2008 with an act declaring the famine as an act of genocide and establishing a national Ukrainian Famine and Genocide Holodomor Memorial Day. Similar legislation has been passed by the provinces of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec. Today, the eyes of 230 Ukrainian Canadians in BC, 1 million of Canadian citizens of Ukrainian descent, about 20 million of Ukrainians living outside of Ukraine, and 42 million of people in Ukraine are focused on British Columbia to witness a historical moment. Today, our province is joining the jurisdictions around the world and enacting the Ukrainian Famine and Genocide Holodomor Memorial Day Act to recognize the Holodomor as an act of genocide and to establish throughout British Columbia the Ukrainian Famine and Genocide Memorial Day on the fourth Saturday in November in each year. We all believe it is vital to ensure that this tragedy is not forgotten, as it is the best defense mechanism against history repeating itself. And today, as we pledge a solemn commitment to remember the victims of Holodomor and pay tribute to the survivors of the genocidal famine, we would like to express the most sincere appreciation of the truly collaborative efforts of our communities in Victoria, Greater Vancouver, Vernon, and all over British Columbia. Our diplomatic team, and personally His Excellency Ambassador of Ukraine to Canada, Andriy Shevchenko, and our provincial leadership on making this historical moment happen in BC. We applaud today's remarkable result of collaboration between the BC Green Caucus, the Ministry of Jobs, Trade and Technology, and the Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture. Our community's sincere appreciation goes to personally BC Green leader Andrew Weaver for his leadership in the process of recognizing Holodomor as an act of genocide in BC, and for his very touching introduction of this private member bill. Your introductory speech resonates in millions of Ukrainian hearts, as your family story is also a story of our families. We also would like to thank BC Minister of Jobs, Trade and Technology, Bruce Ralston, for his continuous support of Ukrainian Canadian community in BC in our desire to bring this moment of historical justice. Since 2009, Minister Ralston was at our side at each and every commemoration event in Greater Vancouver. We would like to thank Andrew Wilkinson, the leader of the BC Liberal Party and BC Legislative Official Opposition, for his role in supporting recognizing Holodomor as an act of genocide in British Columbia. We were very impressed with Tom Shepitka's and Michael Lee's speeches, who spoke on behalf of the BC Liberal Party. We also would like to thank them for joining our commemoration events in 2016 and 2018. We were touched to tears with Michelle Mangal's Minister of Energy, Mines and Petroleum Resources for her emotional speech that connected her family history with our Ukrainian community history. Today's event reflects the shared values and demonstrates remarkable all-party support of the bill that our Ukrainian Canadian community in BC sought for over a decade. Thank you all who made it happen today. Ukrainians remember, the world acknowledges.
Natalia Yatskevich, President of the BC Provincial Council of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress. If you would like to hear the other speeches Natalia referred to, you can find a link to the legislature's webpage with the audio archive and transcripts in the show notes of this edition's podcast, which you can access at our website, www.nashholos.com. Natalia Yatskevich was speaking on Tuesday, October 29th at the BC Legislature in Victoria at a reception following the third and final reading of Private Member's Bill M225, Ukrainian Famine, Genocide, Holodomor Memorial Day Act, proclaiming the fourth Saturday in November as an official day of recognition and remembrance of the Soviet communist-engineered artificial famine which deliberately starved to death 7 to 10 million Ukrainians in 1932 and 33. May their memories be eternal. Vichnaya Pamyat.
Никогда мы не будем братьями ни по родине, ни по матери. Духа нет у вас быть свободными, нам не стать с вами, даже сводными. Вы себя крестили старшими, нам бы младшими, да не вашими. Вас так много, жаль, безликие, вы огромные.
Вы жмете, вы все маете, здесь, свою завистью вы подавитесь.
Воля слова вам незнакомое, вы все с детства в цепи закованы.
У вас дома молчание золота, а у нас жгут коктейли Молотова. Да у нас сердце кровь горячая, что ж вы нам, сородня незрячая?
А у нас всех глаза бесстрашные, без оружия мы опасные, повзрослели и стали смелыми, все у снайперов под прицелами.
Нас коты на колени ставили,
Мы восстали и все исправили.
не зря прячутся крысы, молятся.
Они кровью своей умоются.
Вам ждут новые указания, а у нас тут огни восстания. У вас царь, у нас демократия. Никогда мы не будем братьями.
And a song written by Anastasia Dmitrek, and it is in Russian. It is a song that was written to express the feeling of betrayal that Ukrainians felt on the part of their Russian neighbors who previously they had considered as brethren. But after the war, that current war that's waging now, that has broken that bond, and no more do Ukrainians feel that their Russian neighbors are their brothers. Anastasia Dmitrek. It was performed by a group of singers, I believe Lithuanian, with unpronounceable names, but very distinctive, evocative, and haunting voices. And the title of that song was Nikogda me ne budem bratyami. No longer will we be brothers. And here is another one of Anastasia's songs, written in around the same time, a little bit earlier, I think, and it is on the same theme. It is song of betrayal and a bit of despair. It is called Vernethi nam naše nebo, which translates as Give Us Back Our Sky, and it is performed by Georgian singer Zaza Zalishvili.
Верните нам наше небо, верните нам наш покой. Зачем вы пришли, соседи? Зачем вы пришли с войной? Мы с вами детей крестили и пили на брундершафт. Зачем вы нас оцепили колонной своих солдат? Нам много досталось боли, хороним своих сыновей. Мы видели много горя, мы стали еще сильнее. Мы видели много горя, мы стали еще сильнее. Зачем вы пришли, ребята? За что собрались воевать? Мы выстоим брат за брата. Нас тоже учили стрелять. Мы выстоим, у нас воля. Ее не возьмет автомат. Мы вам не сдадимся без боя. Все церкви пусть бьют на бат. Мы видели смерть, ребята, и смело смотрели в глаза. Не надо войны, не надо, потом не вернешь назад. Не надо войны, не надо, потом не вернешь назад.
Here's what's coming up this week in Vancouver's Ukrainian community. The Ukrainian Canadian Congress BC Provincial Council invites the Vancouver community to take part in their annual Holodomor Memorial Services on Sunday, November 24th at 12 noon at the Holy Eucharist Cathedral, 501 4th Avenue in New Westminster. The service will start at 12 noon with opening remarks and commemoration of those who perished in the Holodomor, followed by a documentary screening, a Holodomor display and exhibit, and open discussion. Admission is free, but donations welcome. Proceeds to Holodomor education initiatives. Again, that's tomorrow, Sunday, November 24th at 12 noon at the Holy Eucharist Ukrainian Catholic Cathedral, 501 4th Avenue at 4th Street in New Westminster. On Wednesdays, catch Nash Holos Ukrainian Roots Radio, broadcasting live from Nanaimo to North and Central Vancouver Island, the Gulf Islands, the Sunshine Coast, Northwest Washington State, and in the Greater Vancouver listening area. Join me, Paulina, for the first hour in English and Oksana Poparashnik for the second hour in Ukrainian. That's Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Time on CHLY 101.7 FM on the radio dial and streaming online at chly.ca. And at 6 p.m. Saturday evenings, flip your dial right back here to AM 1320 CHMB Vancouver or catch the live stream at am1320.com. In between broadcasts, follow Nash Holos on Facebook, Twitter, and our blog. And for audio archives, transcripts, podcast feeds, and more, visit our website at www.nashholos.com. And that was the Eparchial Youth Choir from the Holy Eucharist Ukrainian Catholic Cathedral in New Westminster. And again, a reminder to take in the Holodomor commemorations tomorrow at 12 noon. You've been listening to Nash Holos Ukrainian Roots Radio, our flagship show in Vancouver here on AM 1320 CHMB and in international syndication on PCJ Radio International. In between broadcasts, please visit us online at www.nashholos.com, where you'll find transcripts and archived audio files, a link to the Nash Holos podcast feed, and information about the show. There's also a link to our Patreon site there, where you can support our work if you like. На жаль, ми вже скінчили нашу програму, вже час додому і сказати до побачення, але перед тим я хочу залишити вас такими словами мудрості. Кам'яне серця ніколи не щадить людського життя. And our proverb of the week translates as, a heart of stone never spares human life. And with that, we've come to the end of our program. To wrap things up, we have Orus Lute and Slava Ukraini. I'm Pavlina. On behalf of all of us here at Nash Holos and AM 1320, thanks for listening and Dobranich!
посивіла голова. На Сибіру і в мордовських таборах прославляли тебе в думах і піснях. Слава Україні та її синам, запорожцям і лупівським воякам, гайдамакам і петлюрівським полкам. Вічна слава, вічна слава, вічна слава. Дні і ночі проти вражої юрби ми боролись на Донбасі і Дніпрі. Дні і ночі у Карпатах і степах на катів московських наганяли страх. Слава Україні та її синам, запорожцям і лупівським воякам, гайдамакам і петлюрівським полкам. Вічна слава, вічна слава, вічна слава. Рідна ненько, нас мільйони полягли, дай з долонь напитись чистої води. Всю Європу боронили, як могли, проти нечисті азійської орди. Слава Україні та її синам, запорожцям і лупівським воякам, гайдамакам і петлюрівським полкам. Вічна слава, вічна слава, вічна слава. Слава Україні та її синам, запорожцям і лупівським воякам, гайдамакам і петлюрівським полкам. Вічна слава, вічна слава, вічна слава.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed this edition of the show. If you're not yet a Patreon supporter of Nash Holos, I hope you'll consider becoming one today, with the digital equivalent of a cup of coffee once or twice a month, or maybe even a snack or a meal. There's an option for every budget, and even $1 a month tells me you value the show and my efforts to produce and bring it to you. Becoming a Patreon supporter will give you the opportunity to provide feedback to help me improve the show, create cool swag to promote it, and swap ideas on how to promote Ukrainian culture in between broadcasts and podcasts. Your contribution will also help to preserve a well-established on-air and online venue of almost 30 years running to continue promoting Ukrainian culture and heritage long after I've retired, which will happen sooner rather than later. Your contribution will help that transition happen, and future generations will be able to enjoy the music and other Nash Holos programming that you currently do. To become a Patreon supporter, just go to www.patreon.com and search for Nash Holos. That's patron with an E, spelled Patreon. Or go to www.nashholos.com and click on the orange Patreon button on any page there. Thank you for listening and for your support. Щиро дякую.